everyone, welcome to the first of the month challenge. I cannot believe it's February already. This is an exciting month, not only because it's my birthday month, but also because if you've never seen my channel before, I also grow flowers and vegetables from seed. It's part of my business, and I do produce videos on that as well. So it's an exciting time where I get to start planting things and also just have a lot of fun crafting in these challenges. First, we're going to get into craft number 1, and then we will talk a little bit about the challenge. So this first craft that we're going to do, I found this little clock at the thrift store. It was only $3. It is lightweight. It's from China, but it's got like distressing and it looks old. I'm not sure what that void is in the middle. I guess you could store something secret in there if you had something secret. Has a cute little latch, but what I want to do is take out the clock portion. So there's like these little prongs that hold it in. And once I took it out, I'm just going to set this piece aside and put it out of the way. And I need to remove the top piece, and I wasn't sure how to do it. I wanted to be gentle enough because I didn't want to break it because it isn't the sturdiest of quality. And after fiddling with that for a long time, which I wasn't going to show you, I realized that the front just actually popped right off. I felt really ridiculously goofy after I figured that out. But I took the little pin out, and then I used my little delicate screwdriver to get the arms off. And then I was hoping that this would just pop right out, but unfortunately it was just a piece of paper glued on there. So this paper I found at Temu, and I love this flower, and I thought that flower would look really pretty right in the center of the clock there. And then that hole in the center that holds the arms on is where the center of the flower will be. So I am going to admit to you, I am not the greatest at figuring out how to make circles. So I thought, well, I'll just measure the inside diameter of what I want the flower to cover. I will transfer those measurements onto a piece of paper. And then I didn't have one of those things where it like has the point in the middle and you can take the pencil with the string around it. So my circle was a little wonky, but it was good enough, and it fit over the flower well enough to where I was using up most of it. And then I went into the kitchen and found this lid and measured, and it was almost exactly perfect of what I needed. So I swapped out and just decided to use this because it's so much easier to transfer with, or to trace with, something very solid. So once I got it transferred, I cut out my cute little flower and then just took my scissors and tried to get it as fine-tuned as possible. I have a circle cutter, but it's more for fabric, and you have to kind of fold the fabric. So I don't know. If you have a good trick for cutting out circles with paper, let me know. But first I just wanted to set it over the center and then push down with my thumb where that little nub sticks up that holds the little arms for the clock on, and push down. And then I took this little tiny pin, it's really hard to get a hold of, and I just wanted to poke the little hole right in the center where it goes in, so I knew where the center was. And I was just going to push it down, and I thought, oh man, that might rip the fabric or the paper. So I took a screwdriver and just tried to make the hole a little bit bigger so it didn't tear at all once I pushed it down on there. And so I did push it down on there and noticed that the paper was coming up. So I turned it around and pushed it this way so that the broken pieces of the paper would go to the back. Hopefully that makes sense. But I just flattened them down the best that I could so that when I turned it back around and stuck it on there, I didn't have those excess pieces of paper showing. So now I'm just going to put some tacky glue onto the front of the clock and onto my paper. And I ended up putting more onto the clock just to be safe. And then positioning my flower just how I want it and getting it tucked down on there. Now I noticed it wasn't exactly 100% centered, but you know what? It's okay. It's just a wonky little clock. And this will fit in just fine. I have this little scraper, and I'm just very, very gently making sure that there's no bubbles in there and making sure that I get any excess glue out. Then once that had dried, I took my little hands and I was trying to remember, does the long one go on the bottom or the long one go on top? It's been so long since I've even taken a clock apart to have to put it back together. So I got that done. I put the pin back in, and then I got the plastic piece snapped back once I got it centered there. And then the trick was, it's kind of like sloppy when you put this back in here. There's nothing really holding it in until you put those prongs back in. And I wanted to make sure that I had the 12 and the 6 perfectly straight up and down. And once I felt that I had a pretty good handle on that, I put the pins back in, got it put back together, and got it shut. And that's the little flower in there. And the top of it, I didn't really want to glue anything on here because I really would like to change out decor through the seasons. So in our wooded section on our property, when we have windstorms, it always tends to blow nests out of the tree. And I like to collect them and use them in my decor. So I decided I was just going to put that little nest in there, decorate it with a little bit of my dried eucalyptus, and put a little birdie in. So again, the flower's not centered perfectly, but it just kind of adds to the character. I'm just going to go with that. So let me know what you think. It's kind of a cute piece. I was kind of debating on gluing stuff to it, but I think I'm just going to prefer being able to change out the decor on the top. Now, before we move on to craft number 2, I just want to thank all of you awesome people for being here watching the video, and for those that have subscribed. And if you enjoy this type of video, if you could give me a thumbs up, that helps my channel more than you could know. And the first of the month challenge is always hosted by At Home with Gigi and Rustic and Lace DIY. The links to their channels will be down in the description, as well as the complete playlist that includes all of the awesome crafters that are participating in this challenge. So with that, let's get on to craft number 2. Now this craft, I just actually found this at the thrift store the other day, and it was only 50 cents. It is kind of cute for autumn, but I'm really in the mood for spring, and I thought I could do something cute with this in spring decor. So it has these little like eye hook things, and I'm just going to unscrew those to take the hanger off. And this is free paint that I got off of our Facebook free page. And some gal had bought a whole bunch of samples, so I got them from her, and I'm just going to use them up on projects. It's just regular like interior paint. It's not chalk crackly paint or anything like that. But I gave it a good shake up, and there was plenty on the lid. So I'm just going to scrape off the lid and just paint the whole outer rim. And this is kind of like a very light gray white, but I mean, when it dries, it really looks pretty white. So I'm just going to make sure I get the whole inside rim and the outside. And then I was not at first going to paint over the autumn harvest, but I decided I would, because the paper that I'm going to be using on this is pretty thick cardstock, but I thought it would be just my luck if something happened and somehow the design showed through. So I thought, you know what, better safe than sorry. So I just painted it. I got the whole outside rim painted, and it took 2 coats, let it dry overnight. And then the next morning I got some wax paper, and then with my fingers, I just gently made basically that trace around the inside. So I had as good of a circle as possible, because from the last craft, you know, I said I'm not very good at making circles. If you have some kind of tip or trick on how to do it to get really good perfect circles, please let me know down in the comments. I would love to read them. Now, everything in this video I have thrifted. So you see this paper I got from the Goodwill. I think it was a brand new packet. I got 2 of them. They were only $3.99. Lots of pretty papers in here. Some of them I'll probably let my granddaughter use because they're not my style. But when I was flipping through this one, I found this one, and I just thought, gosh, this is so pretty. This just screams spring to me. So let's get this one taken out. And I love that there's more than one of these in the book too. Now this little bird, he's on the corner, and I was kind of bummed about that because I want to use him in my design. So I decided what I was going to do was just take this wax paper and figure out what really design I wanted on the flowers, and make sure I get underneath that little hole punch that they have in these things, and then trace out my circle. And again, because this is flimsy wax paper, I was trying to be so careful to not wonk up the circle by tracing around it. But I got it the best I could. You'll see when I put it on, it's not 100%. Like I said, it's a wonky circle when I'm done with it. But my thought process was I would cut out this design, and then I could cut out the bird and then use the bird like over top and just Mod Podge it on as well. So what I'm going to do is basically most of the bird I'm going to cut out on the lines, but where his feet go onto the little branch, I'm going to try to just the best I can cut it out so that most of that stays, so it doesn't look like a bird with no feet. But let me know, I love birds. I love animals in general, especially baby animals. I'm a sucker. So I wanted to be sure I got the bird on this craft. Now I'm just going to pour some Mod Podge on here, and I thought at first this was way too much, but it's surprising how much you need just to get a good layer on there to hold it down. And my Mod Podge is kind of on its last leg. It's getting crusty at the top. It's getting to the point where it's almost gone, but not really making any money at this yet. So I'm just working with what I've got. And if you really want to help my channel out, the best thing that you could do is just give it a thumbs up and a comment, because it really does help the algorithm push my videos out to more people to see. Now I'm just using my scraper again to make sure that I get all the air bubbles and any excess glue out. And then I'm going to put a nice layer of Mod Podge back over the top of it. And I just love these. I think they're roses, but one almost looks like a peony to me, those really doubly like Sarah Bernhardt peonies. They just are gorgeous. So now I'm trying to figure out just how I want my bird to be positioned down here on the bottom. Decisions, decisions. And then I'm gonna get a nice little layer on his back side. And then I'll get him tucked onto my picture here and then get some more put over the top of him. Let me know down in the comments if you're from a colder area. Are you over winter, ready for spring? I know we've got a little bit to go still, but oh, I'm so ready. So this is what we're looking like. There's a couple little pieces right here on the foot portion and then on his tail that weren't staying down very well. So I just kind of got a little more Mod Podge underneath there and then coated them again on the top. Then I took this into the bathroom and I blow dried it. There we go. About 3/4 of the way and let the rest just air dry. And I lost the footage on the rest of it. My phone was being ridiculous and just shut off, but I used my little finger sander. I sanded both the inner and outer edges, and then I used some of this antique Waverly wax and I rubbed it around with a paper towel, wiped it off with a damp baby wipe, and then it just kind of gave it a little more of a subtle vintagey look. And then I put some jute twine all around the inside, and then some of this free moss that I collected from my wood section I just put down here to kind of adorn the bird a little bit. I didn't want to overdo it. I got the hanger put back on, and I'll reveal this in a minute. Now the last craft that we're going to do, this is another little basket that I got at one of my favorite thrift stores. It had this little person on it, kind of reminded me of Holly Hobby. I almost wanted to say Hobby Lobby, and not my thing. So I pulled her off and I just had to sand it just to get it off and then wiped off the excess. And if you're interested in any of the little tools that I'm using, I'll have a link down in the description for those for you. And anytime you make a purchase through my link, whether it's the item that you are clicking on or if it is something else that you just happen to put in your cart in Amazon while you've clicked on my link, I do get credit for that, and it really helps my channel out a lot. So thank you if you've done that and if you plan to do that in the future. The reason why I am painting this the same color as I did the wall hanging is because the blue was pretty, but I'm going for that spring vibe. And to me, just kind of brighter whites than the crispness and the contrast is what I was going for as well. Because I found some little blue flowers that you'll see here in just a second, and they just didn't go with the blue that was on this original little basket, or it's wooden, kind of like a crate basket, I guess. Now, all of these I found at the thrift store. I love when people donate all of their excess stuff because sometimes I score and I find some really beautiful things. This is just some floral foam. It is the kind that you can use on fresh flowers, and I like to use this better, especially on smaller projects and some of the artificial flowers that have softer stems. It's much easier to glue them on instead of trying to stab them down into the foam. Got a lot of hot glue on there, and I got my little pieces that I cut out worked in there. I couldn't do one solid piece because the handle was in the way. So this one I had to shim it down just a little bit more. And I got that tucked in there, and now I'm ready to start assembling. And I'm just going to use a little bit more of the natural moss that I got out of my wood section to just give a little bit softer look over the top of that floral foam. And all of this moss I just love. Now this, oh my gosh, I have to tell you, I don't know where it came from. My guess is it's kind of like when you go into Hobby Lobby and they have all those beautiful garlands hanging on the back wall that are anywhere from $40 to $100. I am pretty sure that's where this came from, and whoever was pricing that day at my thrift store, I was so happy because I only paid $2 for this huge garland of this beautiful greenery. So just like I do when I am making fresh flower bouquets, I really like to put my greenery, not all of it, but most of it in the beginning, and I kind of do some side sprigs, a little that stick up on the sides and at the top, and then some smaller pieces that just kind of tuck around the bottom. And this just kind of gives me my foundation of my flowers. And then I'll just start tucking in some of the flowers. Now these are the beautiful blue flowers that I just found actually a couple of days ago at the thrift store. And they're a little bit larger than forget-me-nots, but that's kind of the vibe they were giving me, that spring feeling of those pretty little blue flowers that just, it's just quintessential spring to me. So I'm just going to start tucking these in I'm just showing you here that if I need a longer stem, I'm just wonking off these extra leaves here. And I'm getting my basic shape. It doesn't mean I'm not going to put any more blue ones in, because I actually do. But once I get my basic shape, I do like to take some of the filler flowers, or depending on how many I'm putting in there, and just start incorporating those in. And especially these that are kind of like baby's breath, they're filler flowers. It's much easier to get them kind of tucked in so there's depth and dimension before I put any more of the large flowers in. And I'm also taking some of this greenery that I cut off of the blue flowers and tucking that in there as well, so that I have a couple different shapes and colors of greenery. And I'm not going to bore you with the whole process. I'm just going to keep getting it filled up, and this is what it looked like. And I love that it's just kind of small and dainty, and it's something I can fit on my tier tray, or I could add it into any other of my decorations for spring. It just kind of makes me happy. I like, again, just forget-me-not vibes. Let me know what you think. But now we're going to do our wrap up. And here again is the clock that we did with the flower on the center, and my little bird and my reclaimed bird nest and some of my dried eucalyptus leaves. Our sweet little basket with my flowers in there. And I tried to make it pretty on all sides, even though it's basically going to be shown from the one side. And then also my wall hanging. Now don't forget to go down into the description and click that playlist so you can watch all the other awesome creators that are joining into this challenge. Also, don't forget, I also do gardening videos, so be sure to watch for that if you are interested. Otherwise, I just want to thank you for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next time.